Good to be here for what we're going to talk about later, at the end of my presentation, and in terms of our relationship with CompCenter. But before that, I've been asked to share with you some of our views of what's going on in the world from a trends, market perspective, transition perspective, and indeed how that's affecting the workplace. Now, anybody heard of Jess Cooper? I know you're all Queenslanders, but you must have heard of Jess Cooper. No? She's a 16-year-old kid living in Chatswood in Sydney who, take a look at this. This is a real website. My son said, this is beginning of March, he said, Dad, come and have a look at this. This is Facebook, right? Jess Cooper, 16 years old, puts up on Facebook, I'm having a party on the 26th of March. Check this out. 106, and every time it says 167,000 people are attending. And said, yes, I'm coming. And every time he hit the return button, every few seconds it'd be another 100. And it went up to 200,000 people who said, I'm going to come to Jess's party. Right? In fact, down here there were 35,000 people who weren't sure. It was so bad, okay, so they shut the site down. The police had to cordon off Chatswood for the weekend because this has really got out of hand. Now, it's kind of funny, but it's not. It gives you an idea of what can happen today in our digital world. And it's not just happening to the Jess Coopers. It's happening everywhere. I want to share with you a video which is actually an advert, so excuse the advertising, but it, again, gives you an idea of what's going on in the home. Because we've deployed this, and I'll talk about it in a minute, but I'll just share with you this video. It's about Cisco UMI that we've deployed across the US on their broadband network. You need a lot of broadband, so bring on the NBN. And this is the kind of thing that's happening there. Let's say 150 apartments getting sold out well in advance. We're talking about a city of 1 million people that's being built with every single one, every room, every apartment having video and visual communications inside. Now what does that mean? Okay, cool, we can see our grandmothers and cousins, but it's transformational in terms of business to consumer, in terms of government to the citizen, in terms of the deployment and total re-engineering of healthcare services, of medical services, of education services, and also maybe some of the services that you're providing, without the need to be physically hits on or circulation. Now you're probably familiar with the LA Times, the Post, Washington Post, New York Times. Who of you have heard of the Huffington Post? Okay, some of you. No print, nothing physical. It's a purely online newspaper. And it's killing it, look at it. It just got bought by Time Warner for $305 million. It doesn't print a thing. It's all digital. It's got more circulation than the brands that you've known. And in fact, if you look at some of the, I mean, these are real charts, guys. If you're vested in newspapers, if you've got any shares, get the hell out. Get the hell out. Because you're going to lose your, Murdoch is transitioning from a newspaper company to a digital media company. Right? Why? What's going on here? Well, two things. One is that at our fingertips, we've got access to technology that's digitizing anything and everything. It can be your iPad, your camera, your sensors, your PC, or whatever, your smartphone, digitizing everything we can. And that's probably what most people hear about, with Google and Apple, etc., etc. But there's a second important criterion, and that is the ability to connect. So a lot of people say, what does Cisco do? And in very non-technical terms, it's very simple. We are the digital distributors of the 21st century. We are the toll, if you will. Right? In the last century, it was all about big guys and trucks and moving physical things around. Today, it's about digitizing things, putting them in IP packets and shipping them around the world. That's what we do as a business. We take packets from A to B. And that is having this massive transformational effect on every single one of your businesses. Now, it's kind of interesting here, because if you think about it, the cost of whatever it is going down to marginal cost. Take a book, right? You can buy a book for $29 if you want a hard copy, or $9, and it's going down. The newspaper, same thing. Yeah, they're now pushing out the Australian at $5 a month. But hey, $5 a month used to be $2 a day, and going down. and going down. It's going down to zero, like an app. And as you move down a marginal cost, what do? You round it down to zero. So everything, and this is really important, everything that can be digitized is being digitized and is going down to free. Now, the flip side is also happening. Those things that are atomic, that cannot be digitized, are going up in cost, up in price. So if you personally, or from a career perspective, are involved in anything from a product or service perspective that can be digitized, or that is atomic and can be digitized, and you're making money out of the atomic product, get the hell out now, because this avalanche is coming. Blockbuster is going out of business. They used to sell videos, gone. Completely replaced by Netflix, and we're seeing more of it out here, right? And we're going to see more and more and more of that. So if you're involved in any of those industries, move over, because the tsunami is already here. Petitions, and a lot of times Cisco, people say, who's your competitor? Is it whatever or whatever? We worry much more about these things than we do about our competition. That doesn't mean to say we don't respect the competition. We absolutely know who they are, well documented and so on. But these transitions, these mega trends, are far more important to us in terms of how it affects you, our customer, and that's what we invest in. So let's talk about 4 of them, because this is having a tremendous impact right now. First of all, social. Okay, so we all know about Facebook. 750 million people on Facebook. But it's going all the way through to business, in terms of every single business now recognizing the need to be digital, online, social, as well as having a physical presence. I don't know if you saw Google announce Google+. You ever heard about Google+? You know what happened the week after Google announced Google+? Their market cap went up $20 billion. $20 billion on an announcement of a product that you and I can't have access to yet, because you need to go on by invitation only. That is purely social. Right? And what's going on here is we moved from the sort of Jess Coopers of this world, where we can, our kids use it and people know they're engaged now, not because they met anybody, but because they changed their status. And if you've got kids in their 20s, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Right? This is a big deal from a social networking point of view, but it's an even bigger deal from a commercial perspective, and we're going to talk about that too. A really big deal for any business that is not in tune with what's going on in social and digital is going to miss the boat completely. So this is huge. The market cap on companies like Google, with Google Plus at 20 billion, and it's come down a little bit, but it's still up there, right? The market cap on Facebook, which has them, some people talk about now 100 billion, a lot of us would say, give me a break. Actually, watch that space, because there's some serious things going on right now. I'll give you a little example. With a smartphone, people who use smartphones are tending to look before they buy 28% of the time. 41% of those people buy online and recommend to a friend. So if you're in the retail space, watch out, because that's how they communicate. And by the way, if I asked you, would you buy a product that is advertised on free-to-air television and give preference to that, or one of your mates said, hey, this is a really good product, you can have a look at it. That is the whole essence of Facebook's model right now. So it's a really important issue for business. We were just talking over here with Tanya about your business, which is totally predicated on sending 3D images around. It's interesting, I was reading an interview with Vint Cerf. Anybody heard of Vint Cerf? He's the CTO of Google, and also seen as the father of the internet. And he was commenting about email, and he kind of wrote the SMTP protocol for email, and 1971 was the first time email sort of came out. And he said it's interesting that a lot of people thought that with email, it would cut travel. That's what you'd expect. Hey, I can now email, I don't have to, But what happened was, work groups now expanded because of email, and expanded in geography. And what that meant was that when they actually needed to get together, they had to fly. So in fact, the opposite happened. Email caused more air travel rather than less. So guess what we're now coming back to? We're saying, well, hold on. We don't really want to get on airplanes, do we? Not only because of the cost, but because, I don't know if you know this, but 80% of the time, if you want to be on an airplane for more than 2.5 hours, you've got an 80% chance of getting sick. It destroys your social life. You can't see your kids going to play rugby, all that sort of stuff. has much bigger impacts than just the direct cost, right? So what we're doing now with video, and we'll talk about this, is we're scaling human interaction. Everything you kind of see me now, right, in terms of live, right, we can scale. And through HD, we can scale it beyond any boundary whatsoever. People ask me, why is Cisco so focused on visual, and why are we so focused on HD and next quality and next quality? It's because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we're trying to focus on social behavior, that which you want to do anyway. And if we can provide you with technology, with what you want to do anyway, that is, I want to have a real life experience. I want to have a real life experience in a meeting as though you're there, right? Because when I see this little postage stamp thing, that's not like I'm there. I can't see you scratching, I can't see your frown, I can't see the glisten in your eyes. Just like you're seeing me gesticulate and so on right now. That's what you want. And what we're doing with our technology is building that intelligence into the network to give you as good an experience, whether you're there or whether you're in the lounge room, whether you me sat in front communicating with your parents, or indeed with the government department providing you with some sort of social service. Mobile, huge. Right, we're talking about already 5 billion mobile phones on Earth. Well, here's a really interesting statistic. Of those 5 billion, half a billion are smartphones, okay, with some sort of operating system, iOS, Android, those are the two main ones. The interesting statistic, though, is that from that 500 million mobile phones that are smart, there is more traffic coming out of those 500 million than all of the others combined. And this is accelerating. If you look at Telstra's recent numbers, they just published some stats, and they said that already over 40% of Australians have got smartphones. And they expect over 60% to have smartphones. And I don't know about you, but most people today don't use their smartphones that much to make phone calls. They use it for a lot of other things. The average Australian has downloaded 20 applications, to give you some idea, and they're not voice applications. Okay, so this is going ballistic. Interesting thing about video, just another comment because I'll link it back to mobile, and that is we do this thing called the Visual Network Index every 6 months. We measure the traffic around the world. We say, we can tell you it's going to be 4 times. So the amount of traffic we have today is going to be 4 times that in 2015. But here's the interesting statistic. By the year 2050, 91% of the world traffic will be video. Now if you look at mobile, we're seeing already 62% of mobile traffic is already video. And by the way, it's not just the mobile phone, it's the iPads, right? And it's cars, it's gloves, it's God knows what else. It's really interesting too when you look at this Visual Network Index. Listen to this for a number, right? So we talk about how many phones there are on Earth. Do you know that right now there are 30 countries in the world, 30 countries in the world, that there are more mobile phones than there are electricity connections? And as we move forward in time, that's going to get worse. We are moving into an era of being energy poor. That's a really big issue. By 2015, we're going to see 4 major regions, including Southeast Asia. So I'm talking very highly populated regions of the world, where there will be more mobile phones than there will be electricity points. And that's the transition. That's the whole transformation that's taking over right now. I won't talk about gold connectivity, right? Well, what's happening is all that intelligence doesn't necessarily need to be in your hand anymore, because it's in the cloud. And as that transition starts happening, we can do some truly amazing things. But what's really powerful about all of this is what we call the amplifier effect. Because when you connect it all, you get what Metcalfe defined